Yeah, Mike, I'm 100% with you. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. You're looking at this team. You want to see young guys coming up. You want to give guys a chance, try and build something. We all know this is not going to be a good baseball team to begin with. I don't get the rationale behind having Frank Gore and Sizemore up either. Not that there is a ton of talent in the minor leagues to bring up at least the high levels of the minors, especially in the outfield. So, it's not like they had a lot of other options, but I'm with you. I mean, don't Chase Utley and Ryan Howard bring veteran leadership? What do you need Frank Gore for? Frank Gore, a really nice guy. He plays a good outfield. He's got a great arm, a legendary arm in right field, but Sizemore, of course, just can't seem to stay healthy throughout his entire career. So I don't get it at all. I'm with you 100%, Mike.
James Seltzer's live at Citizens Bank Park where the Phillies take on the Red Sox tonight. James, how about Aaron Harang tonight? Obviously the Phillies went with the veteran route. Someone's got to fill innings. I get that. But what are the Phillies hoping from Harang this season? Is this a guy that they're hoping they could pawn off and trade to somebody around the deadline?
I'm sure that's what they hope, but I don't know how likely it is. I think more than anything, you said it, he's an innings eater. He's a guy who'll go out and give you, 5, 6, 7, save the bullpen on a certain night. And just, look at the staff to begin with. When you've got Jerome Williams and Sean O'Sullivan, Sean O'Sullivan has no business being in a major league rotation, none whatsoever, So I guess, I think it's just a guy to go out and eat innings and look, maybe hit lightning in a bottle. If you actually look at Harang last year, started the season great, was one of the best pitchers in baseball for the first month, and then completely fell off the table. So maybe you catch a little lightning in a bottle. He has a good month or two, and you can flip him for a B or a C grade prospect that maybe has a chance down the line. But outside of eating innings, I don't see a lot of upside for Harang.
All right, how about Chad Billingsley, scheduled to begin a rehab assignment on the 10th of this month? He's another guy. What are they going to do with that number 5 spot in the rotation? Do they have any answer to that? You mentioned Sean O'Sullivan, who I agree should not be anywhere near a Major League Baseball rotation. They got Billingsley down there in the minors, and obviously that 5th spot is still open. Do they have a plan for that yet?
Well, I think as of now it will be O'Sullivan, but moving forward, I think Billingsley is the guy they'd like to slot in there. Sandberg just now did talk about Billingsley. He said he's progressing well. I think the fact that he pitched up north is a good sign, but we're talking about another guy who just can't stay healthy, has never been able to stay healthy throughout his career, had good stuff when he was younger, has had a couple nice seasons in the majors, but just can't seem to stay healthy, Mike, and I think that's going to be an issue again. But I think ultimately they would like to have Billingsley out there. They would like to see, again, kind of the same idea with Harang. If Billingsley can put a good month together, maybe you can flip him for something. But, based on recent history, it just is very unlikely that Billingsley is going to be able to give you a lot of innings.
Yeah, and obviously they had guys around like Kevin Slowey. They also signed Dustin McGowan. You wonder why Sean O'Sullivan's even going to get an opportunity to pitch at the big league level. That is mystifying to me as to why they would use O'Sullivan over some of the guys they have in their own organization. It would seem like there was no need to give him this opportunity.
Yeah, I can't believe they got rid of Slowey. Slowey's had his issues, but he's a guy who throws strikes. He doesn't walk people. I've always liked that about Slowey. He's shown in Minnesota that he can have success on the major league level. I was really surprised they got rid of Slowey and kind of brought O'Sullivan along here. O'Sullivan has shown nothing to make us believe that he's going to have any chance to have any sort of success on the major league level. So I'm with you. And McGowan, he's had one nice season, but that's another guy who's never been able to stay healthy throughout his career. He's getting older. It's just, you look at the whole rotation, all these guys, Jerome Williams too, it's just a bunch of retreads. It's a bunch of, journeyman type of guys outside of Buchanan who's young and, we'll see. He's not a big-time prospect. He doesn't have a ton of stuff. Maybe he pitches decently, but for the most part, it's just a collection of journeymen who really, there's not a lot of upside there, Mike.
James, let's get to Dominic Brown. When he comes off the DL, who do you think the guy is that ends up going down?
Man, you hope it's not Darin Ruff, but it seems like that's a legitimate possibility. I personally think Frank Gore makes the most sense. Frank Gore has not been able to stay in the majors over the last few years. Again, nice arm out in right field, but just hasn't been able to hit at a consistent level for a long time. Even when he did have solid years in the majors, had real trouble with controlling the strike zone, with patience, with having a good major league approach at the plate. I don't think Jeff Francoeur has any place on this team. I think if they send Darin Ruf down, it'd be a big mistake. I'm not the biggest Ruf guy in the world, but on a team that is completely lacking in any sort of power. I mean, I mentioned this earlier when I was on with Pete, but you look at the lineup, the outfield that they're running out there with Herrera, Revere, the opening day lineup, and Sizemore, and even Francoeur. I mean, that's a lineup that could put up a combined 15, 20 homers as an outfield. That's really, really bad. They need someone who can, add a little punch to this lineup. And Darin Ruf could be that guy. He might not, but he could be. It just appears that for some reason that this organization is not as high on Ruf as at least some of the other fans and media members seem to be.
Or maybe even the manager. Ruff's hitting in the 5-hole tonight, and he could be the guy that gets sent down to the minors. James Seltzer is covering the Phillies for 97.3 ESPN. He's live at Citizens Bank Park. Recently, Ryne Sandberg's name came up as the most likely manager to be fired first. Was that brought up at all in the manager's conversation today?
It was not, and I was going to bring it up, and it didn't feel like the right moment. Sandberg is not the most talkative guy to begin with. It didn't seem like you would get much out of him. It almost didn't even seem worth broaching. But as far as I'm concerned, I think it's kind of silly. I don't know how you can expect to give this guy the talent that he's been given, and I don't know if he's a good manager or not. I have my questions. I have my doubts. But how do you give this guy this lineup, this starting rotation, this team, and then fire the guy a couple years in? It just doesn't make a lot of sense. I think you kind of have to ride this period out with the guy, or at least give him a chance to see if he can develop some younger guys to do something to move this team forward, because just to fire him, in that case, it means that in my guess, that he's getting fired instead of Ruben Amaro, which would be a colossal mistake. So I don't know whether Ryne Sandberg is a good manager or not, but I think the big reason for that is that he doesn't have anything to work with.
We're on the same page there, as I think a lot of people would say that Sandberg was not the first choice, but certainly hasn't been given the tools to work with here, and he could be the fall guy yet again for Ruben Amaro Jr.'s failures, which have been many, many, many over the last couple of years. James Seltzer's live at the ballpark tonight, and of course throughout this baseball season, we'll talk to James as this Phillies team will be more about what's next as opposed to what happens now. And we'll talk to you later, James. Thanks so much, man.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Mike.